If ever your life could be a true crime podcast episode, then this podcast is for you. We're about to embark on a roller coaster of emotions, insights, survival, and stories about escape. So buckle up and let the journey begin.
Rock and roll. That works. I like that.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of The Escape Pod, a part serious, part hilarious comedy featuring stories of escape. And we're rocking and rolling into this episode. I'm Julie.
And I'm Charity.
Welcome. How's it going?
It's going.
What are you escaping from today?
Snow.
I knew you were going to say that. I knew when I was driving in today. I know what she's going to say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is
Kinda
why
messy.
I usually hate February, but I really can't complain about this month. It has not been terrible.
No, just this week.
Just this week.
And what else?
I'll take a couple bad weeks on a winter and call it good.
And escaping from IT
yeah,
issues.
the ghost in the machine. Yeah,
the
has
worst, right?
decided to be the gatekeeper for all my emails and not let them reach me. So I've had staff thinking like, she's not responding, she's upset, or, silly things.
She's
and it's
mad
like,
at
no, she
me.
just doesn't know that you sent her anything. So anyway, we're trying to navigate that.
I had a coworker's calendar that is typically shared with me. I have like two people because I kind of need to know what you and one of our other coworkers is doing if I'm scheduling like a presentation or a meeting or whatever that you need to know about. And his went away. I wrote him and said, are you mad at me?
Are you dead?
'Cause I can't see your calendar. And he said, it shows me sharing it. I was like, oh, I thought you were cutting me out of your life. But he wasn't.
No. Well, I mean, literally, when you go into my email now, like send and receive is gone. All the settings are gone. It's like half of an app. And I have been thinking it is a really light email week.
Yeah,
Which is kind of nice because I've been busy writing grants. So it's like, okay, no distractions. But then it's to the point where it's like, what am I missing? I'm missing
something's
something.
wrong.
So I literally could not think of anything else. Ron is gone today. Couldn't figure it out. He's been trying even though he's out. And nothing's working. I have reinstalled everything. It's crazy. So I finally just put an auto reply. I just said, my email's having trouble. If it's important,
Call me.
Teams me, send a message to Kelly, do something. But
Yeah. I have successfully escaped one of the worst headaches in my entire life this morning. So we're like 4 hours past it, so I'm good now. But man alive, I felt like I was the mind-blown emoji. That it was like if
Cracking
it could
your
have like
skull from
popped
the
out of my
inside.
head, it
Yeah.
might have actually felt better than what I was experiencing. Anyway, we have a guest in
we do.
the podcast suite today. Charity, do you want to introduce him?
I do. Michael is in the studio with us today, and he is someone. How long have you been on campus now?
March 3rd will be a year.
Oh my gosh!
Yep.
Yay! Almost a couple more weeks, which is just really cool. And Michael has been somebody who has been very open about his journey and willing to share it out in community. It actually got back to one of our board members. I don't know if you even know this, but you were
The restaurant, right?
at the restaurant.
Yeah, I do.
And the husband of one of our board members was at the table that day when you just broke into all the good stuff about OneHeart, and it got back to her, and everybody was all happy about it. So
I do remember that vividly. I remember what table that was, too.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's great because there was some good support at that table. So
Yeah. Coming up on a year here on our campus. How far back do you want to go in sharing your story? I'll let you kind of decide.
I mean, I'll go back to my childhood, to where I know it kind of started a curiosity for experimenting with certain things that ended up leading to being consumed by a lifestyle that led to poor choices and then worse choices, and then starting to feel like your world was closing in because of such poor choices, and then you choose that same thing to escape from those, and then it just becomes a self-reinforcing descent into your own personal hell, essentially.
How old do you remember this curiosity becoming a problem?
Oh, let's see. I mean, we'll go back to
what started it all? Was there an inciting
harmless-
incident or?
harmless, I would say harmless at that time because I was so naive, just a curiosity to smoke pot. And I was 10 years old.
Oh, wow.
And then started smoking, and then by 12 I was a full-blown pothead.
Yeah.
And this is while I was living on the East Coast in New York, Great parents, great upbringing, very loving parents. I didn't come from any kind of hard knock life or anything, you know. Had all the opportunity in the world and still do now. But yeah, it started with a simple curiosity to try something to make me feel a little bit different, you know. Was taking DARE at the time. I don't even know if they still have that. Drug Abuse Resistance Education.
Something else.
They got rid of that now? Yeah, but I remember taking that class and then it actually kind of piquing my interest. Like, wow, this is what these things make you want, make you feel like. It didn't deter me. It actually kind of made me intrigued.
You know what? I think, don't quote me on this, but I was listening to another podcast where they talked about that, like the backfiring of some of these programs.
Oh, yeah.
And my layman's terms of thinking about it is the mind can't process a negative. So if it's like, don't do drugs, you're thinking about drugs, right? And so it does backfire because that's just not the way the brain works.
Absolutely. Especially as a kid, I think, too. You know, you naturally, some of us are compelled to do things that we're not supposed to do or told not to do. It's just in like a child's nature, you know.
May I ask where a 10-year-old gets pot in your circles?
Living right outside of New York City and having friends who had older siblings in high school who were already able to drive. At that point, their world is wide open.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's so easy to find anything up there. And everywhere now.
I was going to say, don't you think probably even here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
I always had a stash in my house, so
and then
I had all the stuff.
Charity didn't have to drive away to find things. She didn't need a car. Okay, so young. So you describe yourself as a pothead. What happens next?
So then I was always able to by 13, 14, I was high every day in school, but still went to school every day, was able to graduate and do fairly well, and then get into college. But by then, let me backtrack. We moved from New York to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, 2 months before September 11th.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Kind of a creepy story, partly because my dad was FDNY and retired in 2000. Now, he was on site for the original World Trade Center bombing in 93.
Wow.
And they all knew something was going to happen again. They just had a weird feeling. You know, no inside information or any kind of zeitgeist kind of stuff. But sensed that something was going to happen. And then he wanted to kind of move us out of the area once he retired. And he retired in August of 2000. And then by July, we had found a house in Myrtle Beach and moved down there. Started my junior year of high school. And then 2 months later, I'm walking into class at 8:30 in the morning. And the TVs are on. And I see what I thought was like a movie coming attraction, you know, with the tower falling, you know. I think your parents are here to pick you up. They knew I was from New York, the new kid, you know, so. That's how that played out. It was kind of creepy. Total coincidence, but yeah. Moved 2 months before that happened and then finished out high school. And so by the time I got down south, I had been introduced to Adderall, which was a new thing back then. And then
prescribed or not prescribed?
No, everyone seemed to have it.
Okay.
Everyone in the school had it. We were doing it in class, just sitting there
wow.
And then sitting there, I'd be really in tune with what's going on, really focused, trying to redoing notes because they don't look neat enough kind of stuff. Then go home and work out for 3 hours. Okay, this felt good. So then that what you want to call it, genetic, whatever this predisposition was to this kind of stimulant and this feeling good, you know, my addictive nature, then that led to me trying cocaine at 16 years old. And then was doing all three, you know, still smoking like a chimney.
Ooh.
And, you know, introduced to cocaine, finished out high school, and got into Coastal Carolina University down there on a scholarship, the Life Scholarship, which awarded $5,000 a year, $2,500 a semester at that time, if you maintained above a 3.0 average. And I was still living at home, which was strange. I stayed home with my parents who lived right down 3 miles down the road from the campus because I sensed that if I was living on campus, I didn't trust myself. I almost knew. I knew if I was living in the dorms, I wouldn't have been able to control myself and I would have flunked out in a semester.
So you're a highly functioning drug addict.
I was, I would say, for a while, for a long time, up until very recently, within the past few years. But the history of drug addiction goes back until, like I said, 9, 10 years old. It may have been single digits, 9 when I first smoked pot. That was the gateway drug. That's why they call it that, you know.
Yep.
But started college
And
then was introduced to heroin. And at this time I was...
In college, you were introduced to heroin.
Yeah, I didn't even hang out with anybody in college. It was all still the high school clique and then people that I met just in the area. But my life on campus was non-existent. I went
heroin in college.
Yeah, I went to school and then left campus. People on campus, they didn't...
Wow.
I had no social network, at least not a positive one. So yeah, then introduced to heroin and so now I'll give you full disclosure on all this stuff. I enjoy telling it because now that I've gotten through the woods, it's almost like inspiring to myself to hear it from myself and see how I've turned out. But and then introduced to the needle. So I started injecting these things now. And then once you do that, a lot of people never come back because of the way it makes you feel. Yeah, it's very easy to overdose on drugs, and it's like walking the plank. But still, like through all of that, was able to graduate college with a 3.2. Had to take a leave of absence for a year because I had some trouble with my internship. Had to redo it, got a little frustrated, and graduated, I think it was, started college in 2003. I think I graduated 2009 with a Bachelor of Science in, oddly enough, health promotion with a fitness minor.
Wow.
Being an intravenous drug addict. And all the while was working construction with my dad because he started a carpentry and painting business while in the fire department because you only work 2 days a week.
Right.
You get 24 hours a day, He gets his 40 in 2 days and then would come back and then do side jobs. So he took me in as a gopher at 8 years old. Go for this, go get me a hammer.
I was one of those once.
Yeah. And taught me a lot, So that was my primary source of income to help him out, along with waiting tables. Because down in Myrtle Beach, you've got, there's golf courses, strip clubs, restaurants, bars, and that's most of the economy down there.
Yeah,
So I was doing that for work, but once I graduated, was still lost. I didn't really know what I wanted to do, and was using college as just a way to perpetuate the party mentality, Like I stayed at home because I knew I needed to do that to stay in line, and keep my parents happy, live for free kind of thing. But really was just going through lost the whole time. And that's when the addiction was starting to get bad. Like by this point, I was smoking weed, doing cocaine, even crack cocaine, and shooting up heroin. Yeah, I don't know how I survived.
Wow. How many years was this then that you were that hardcore?
Let's see. It really started once I started doing heroin and then discovered injecting it. Then that's when it consumes you, like really consumes you. So 17 years old, 18, and now we're talking, let's see. We're talking about 6-7 years at this point to graduating college, where I'm at now in the story anyway, about 6 years. So now I graduated and I'm still just bouncing around and things are getting progressively worse with the drugs, but...
Do your parents know at this time?
They're starting to learn, yeah. They're learning signs of what someone looks like when they're on heroin. That's all it takes.
Yeah.
Someone knows and you see someone doing this, there's something wrong, So they started learning, and it's odd. My dad has had his own issues. I mean, he's never had any legal issues. He's always held down his job, never had any problems, but he smokes a little pot now and then, But he predicted me. I remember when I was like 15, he predicted me having a serious problem with drugs. And he said it as almost like as if he knew it was going to happen, maybe from his personal experience or just a addictive nature in his side of the family,
Yeah, I think I have a friend who, in her husband's side of the family, they were very honest with their kids because they knew the lineage of addiction issues. Yeah.
So similar story. So he kind of sensed it, and had this look on his face when he's telling me this, and I'm oblivious at that age, but I could still remember it clear as crystal, like looking at me predicting this as if he knew he wasn't going to be able to do anything about it, Like when someone
Like it was preordained or something.
Or yeah, like even if it's your son, like I remember him telling me once it got bad, he's like, if I could chain you to the floor, I would do that. But you need to get out and work. You need to live a life, I can't physically do that, but I would if I could and keep you alive and try to get you through this,
Yeah.
But so he sensed that and he predicted it very young. It's funny how that stands out in my mind that much. But so now I'm at like 24 and working at restaurants, can't hold a job for more than a few months, Now the addiction to multiple things or bouncing from one to another and then trying to delude myself that I got over this drug just by going to another one, just hell-bent on not being sober. I just didn't like the feeling of being sober. I felt like something was missing. And I couldn't go out and just go play Frisbee golf or go to a baseball game like I saw other people doing and enjoying it. Like, how are these people having this kind of fun sober? I could never wrap my mind around that. I always had to be messed up on something or else I felt like it just wasn't right.
Interesting.
If that's not a telltale sign of an addict, I don't know what is, And then I continued doing that for another 5 years. Basically, I never used my degree. Nothing lucrative anyway. Although what I learned doing that, like I'm applying it now, and I always have with just my kind of active lifestyle that's kind of counteracted a lot of the detriment that I know would have happened had I not tried to stay healthy.
Yeah.
While being self-destructive. I've been referred to as a self-destructive health fanatic. It doesn't make any sense, but what it boils down to...
Side note, he spoke at an open house for me and biked to get there. And
had to
she
climb
lives
Everest.
on a steep hill.
I did not know that, yeah. I did. That's a hill. That makes M Hill look like a molehill.
Oh my gosh.
You biked up there?
I did offer to pay for the lift for him, and he just showed up, and then he helped me carry stuff in the house.
I may have accepted had I known what that hill was going to look like. I got it. Can't be that bad. I got this in one shot.
I walked that hill many times. Yeah.
All the way up there, I was like...
Yeah. I think it's harder on a bike than like hiking because of the pitch of it, right? Yeah.
And then I felt weird when I got there because I was drenched in sweat.
Oh,
what are
you're
they going to think of me now? I'm just dripping sweat as I'm coming here trying to speak.
They're like, he's committed to helping you make this work today, Julie.
I'm glad that was the impression.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. No. But anyway, go. I'm sorry I interrupted. But so health fanatic, but also drug addict.
Yeah, so what it boils down, I just have an addictive nature to anything that makes me feel good. So it's not necessarily things that are self-destructive. Like, I was actually introduced to a workout regimen right around the time I started smoking pot, that young. And it's funny, the reason being is because I was about this tall, but I weighed about 130 pounds.
How tall are you?
6'3".
Yeah.
I was a string bean, though. And there was a myth back then that if you start working out and lifting weights too young, it'll stunt your growth. I was like, good, that's what I want. I don't want to be 8 feet tall. All right, let me start doing this. And it was one of my mom's best friends who was like a champion power lifter.
Wow.
Who bought me a little set of weights, and this is really young, at like 10, 11 years old, and showed me some basic compound lifting movements. And immediately I got hooked to that because it made me feel good, made me feel good, clear-minded. So that addiction is actually more deep-seated to me than any drug addiction, because it actually started before any of that. And even through my worst times, I was always addicted to that too, which always helped me maintain a clear mind and kind of combat some depression that I'm pretty sure may have taken over or really gotten the best of me. And it works wonders for that, I really don't think, I think I'd be in a straitjacket or worse right now if I had put myself through everything I did with the drugs without having had that to kind of counterbalance it,
Yeah.
But it also enabled me to go out and look healthy when I wasn't healthy. Trying to take care of myself, but then destroying my body and my mind at the same time. So I deceived a lot of people for 20 years doing that, So yeah, by the time I was 27, 28, it was starting to get bad. My parents were kicking me out. I was back living with them again, and they were kicking me out, noticing me nodding off, whatever I was on at the time. And then my dad is all about researching everything he can, so he researched all these symptoms and side effects, what it does, blah, 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 and he didn't know what to do. So he'd kick me out, and then I'd be wandering the streets or sleeping, in the woods somewhere with my guitar and a bag of clothes. And then he'd be freaking out about me, like, oh, you can't do this. I can't do this to my son, finding out that he's standing out in the driveway waiting for me to come walking home again, So, and then that leads me to, I guess, ultimately what led me out here, which was at 28, feeling completely lost, having not used my college degree, still with no legal record at this time. I decided to look into the military. Figured, let me get someone to straighten me out and maybe get away from this area, do some sightseeing, and get my act together, which is still kind of naive because at that time I was under the impression that I could escape what's going on in here and escape being an addict by going somewhere else.
Yeah.
Let me get away from
your mind goes with you.
Yeah, exactly.
You're still there.
Yeah, let me get away from these people that are bad for me because they're the reason. It's not me,
Oh, yeah.
Nonsense. And go somewhere else. Go travel the world and do that. And that was this little delusion of grandeur that I had.
When did you finally have that self-realization that no matter where you go, there you are?
Probably not until going to treatment.
Okay.
Because, let's say I came out here in May of 2016, had joined the Air Force a year prior, went down to Texas, went to basic training, actually was an honor graduate.
Still on drugs? Or are they drug testing you?
No, I was able to get away from everything.
Okay.
Yeah. Oddly enough, get away from all that because they are zero tolerance with that. And
I mean, the planes are really expensive.
Yeah.
You're
either
flying or working on.
Oh, yeah. And the amount of money that they invest in airmen.
Yeah.
It's 7 figures to get you to where you're at, especially if you're like working intel and you have to get a top secret clearance. They invest so much money in those people, So went to basic, didn't have any issues, and then went to, where was it, Goodfellow in San Angelo for my training to be a firefighter. That was my AFSC. And then was sent here. Was originally supposed to go to Minot, and then a week before I was supposed to ship out from Texas up to North Dakota, they changed my orders and sent me here. So I got here in May of 2016, and I was living in the dorms. And things were going okay. Things were going, I thought, good. Like I was on point with work, enjoying the fire department life, and then met some people in the Air Force, some other airmen, younger guys. I was significantly older than most people in there.
Especially entering.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was 29 with a bachelor's degree, and I was an E3. And then I found out later, actually, that my recruiter lied to me. I asked him would I qualify for officer candidacy school since I have a bachelor's degree, which is a main requirement. And, I'm 29 years old, and he told me that unless I was an ROTC with honor ROTC, that I wouldn't have a shot. So I just enlisted. And then I get in there, and my sergeants are like, you're 30 years old with a bachelor's degree. Why are you standing there? Like, you should be an officer. And I was like, well, I was told I couldn't. And they're like, yeah, he lied to you because they have to meet quotas. They're the recruiter, so they're just trying to get you through. So it kind of left a bitter taste in my mouth a little bit.
Of course.
But I just, put my nose to the grindstone and was all about the fire department thing. But like I said, that lingering desire to just be intoxicated, this addictive part of me, this demon, was still in there, and I didn't know anything about it. I wasn't ready to admit that I had a problem. And that is, of course, the first step. If you're oblivious to that or you're not willing to, then you're ultimately hopeless until you can say, listen, I have a problem, I need help, So which I finally learned, But at that point, it was still, I got away from it. I left this area where there was a problem. It's not a problem anymore. Like, I don't have the problem here. I'm stronger than this. And then ended up meeting somebody through the fire department downtown here, a civilian who had cocaine and was hanging out at, which is now, and met him there, bought some cocaine from him after I had been drinking, and then dropped him off at the hotel he was staying. And while I was driving back, and I was pretty drunk, but I was also big at the time. I was probably 20 pounds heavier than I am now. And must have had like 3 or 4 Long Islands and all sorts of shots, but was still driving, you know, I don't want to say good, but what got me pulled over was not erratic driving. It was failing to pull over into the left lane when somebody was pulled over on the right shoulder.
Yeah, the move over law.
Yeah, which in South Carolina, they don't enforce that. I did it 100 times, never had an issue. But one time here, it got me pulled over, smelt alcohol in my breath, the officer, state trooper, and I had just bought cocaine, which I put in the center console, and runs me through the gamut, the field sobriety test, and has me blow, and I blew like a .09, just over the legal limit.
Okay.
Under arrest. Got to search the car. Now he comes back. What's this bag? It's boom, career over instantly in the military.
Yeah.
You know, which was another pivotal moment because at that point now I'm feeling really disappointed. I know I disappointed everybody in my family who was rooting for me, right? Starting to feel lost again and like a failure. So as an addict, what did I do? I started turning towards something that would get my mind off of that, right? Because now I'm court-martialed, and I'm still in the military, but OSI, the Office of Special Investigations, is now prepping their case against me, and nothing moves quick. So for a year, I'm basically walking around the base picking up garbage because I can't work as a fireman anymore, you know. But they have to do something with me so I could still earn my bi-monthly pay, you know.
Sure.
So doing that, and then that's when I found meth up here. It's probably, it was Martin Luther King Day of 2017 that I got pulled over and the military career ceased ultimately. And then a couple months later is when I found meth, and when it was, I think, really starting to explode again and take over the country. Because when I came out here in when I left Myrtle Beach, I remember that drug was nowhere to be found out there. It was really hard to find it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I remember going back to see my parents in 2018, once I finally separated after this court-martial, for which I ended up doing 3 months in the Brig, the military prison, and then I got a bad conduct discharge. Finally went back in 2018 to Myrtle Beach. And just that 3-year gap, as soon as I got back there, meth was everywhere out there too.
I feel like, Charity, it's been here a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because it was a cheaper version of serious drugs that made it more widely available. And so I don't know, it's this part of the country. Yeah, has unfortunately caused a lot of problems for communities here. But all right, so keep going, sir.
So 2018, I went back to see my parents, but like, I'll backtrack a little bit. Yeah, so it was the abrupt military halt that kind of spawned this I don't give a shit attitude anymore, like screw it. And that's when meth really started to consume me. So by the time I was separated from the military, I was seeing a girl, and I ended up getting her into this too. I think she may have tried it prior to meeting me, but once we got together, it got bad. So now we're at summer of 2018, and after I'm escorted off the base for the last time, I ended up moving to Martin for a year, really small town.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when it got really bad. Like, it went from doing it occasionally, maybe, I don't know, I'd only done it maybe a dozen times up until getting separated from the military. And then once I moved to Martin, it became an everyday thing. And now we're injecting it too.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
What does that cost you, can I ask?
And
where are you getting money from?
I was working for a construction company down there as a painter.
Okay.
Kind of like freelance. Like, the guy had teams, but I was kind of doing my own thing because I am really good at what I do, and was able to still go to work. I could work late hours, which works well for someone with this lifestyle. Yeah, he would send me.
Because you're barely sleeping.
Yeah, and I'm on my own, so I don't have anybody overseeing me now, you know. And he was sending me mainly to work in the hospitals. I remember him sending me to work at Pine Ridge Hospital, working at Rosebud, and like all at once sometimes. Be working here a couple days, and
Sure.
to the point where I'm forgetting which paint to bring to which hospital, you know. And then even up at, where was it, Susan, the old building.
Yeah.
Up here too. And that's when it really started to consume me, so much to where the girl I was seeing could barely deal with me anymore. But by now, add another element into it, I also started getting into a life of crime, primarily stealing.
Was it to support the habit, or
it's for an income?
Okay.
And yeah, to support the habit, and like merchandise from stores was a big thing. Anything and everything I can get my hands on, and then you meet people that have the drug, and now you're trading the drug, and now it makes it to where you're not spending any money on it. Or I'd be going and meeting these people and leaving with a pocket full of cash and drugs, which makes it impossible almost to stop that lifestyle until somebody stops you, you know? And then, when was it? So fast forward a year from there. So we were in Martin for a year and then moved back to Rapid City in 2019 to a house right on the corner of, actually, it was Elm and St. Pat. Then I ended up getting arrested in Mitchell, actually. At this point, I was just driving my car around the state, just going all tuned up, going to department stores and just getting whatever I could.
Wow. Coming
back and then selling it everywhere, you know. And got arrested in Mitchell with like $60,000 worth of stolen merchandise.
Holy moly.
Yeah, after driving all over the whole state. And basically, I would just look at a map. And look at the letters of the city. And if they were big letters, like, oh, that looks like a big enough city that would have some stores.
Like a treasure hunt.
Yeah, that's all it was.
Yeah.
And then...
That's wild.
Yeah, it was crazy. And then got, caught.
So you're methodical about it.
I was, yeah. So hit every main city in the state. And then coming back from Sioux Falls after being up for like 5 days straight.
Wow.
Went through Mitchell again and went to their Walmart and got arrested stealing some speakers and some other stuff. And never made it back to see. I kissed her goodbye on a Friday. She knew what I was up to, but she wanted to turn a blind eye to it, you know, because I was also paying the rent with all this money that I was getting now, you know. So kissed her goodbye, expecting to see her on a Monday, and it's 5 years ago. I never saw her again because I never made it home, and ended up spending 3.5 months in Davison County Jail, and then was sentenced to 10 years with 7 suspended because I still had no prior record at this point. 10 years with 7 suspended, so I ended up doing like 15 months, you know, and of course she didn't stick around, and I don't blame her. I wouldn't have either, you know, with me who I was at this point, you know, knowing I'm going to be gone for a while. You know, where'd my support system go? You just up and left me because you're doing some shady stuff, stealing, doing drugs, and selling your plunder, you know, like, so that's how that relationship and little chapter ended, and then did 15 months. Got out. Now I'm sober, but not by choice. I deluded myself again, thinking that because I'd been sober, it's not a problem.
I'm fine.
Not a problem. Yeah, I was able to do it. Yeah, well, you did it because you were confined. You know, it's not on your own free will, not on your own volition. You know, it's different. There's no temptation when you're in a prison cell. You know, it's easy for an addict to say no because no one's offering you anything. But then I got out and I was sent to in January of 2021 now. And it was actually Jesse, can I say a name, that picked me up. He was a parole officer at the time.
Oh, our Jesse.
Yeah. And he picked me up because by then I'd been passed around. So when I got arrested in Mitchell, they put me on the NCIC, National Crime Information Center.
Okay.
Name, photo. And then I got hit with like 25 charges because all these cities that I just went to that had footage of some stranger.
Caught up to you.
Yeah, real quick. And then like the detective comes in to my cell in Mitchell and it's like, my phone is blowing up with people who want to know who you are, you know, saying you just stole from them. Yeah, so it was a shit show. It got real bad real quick, you know. But I ended up getting passed around from so many jails that by the time I got to where we are now in the story with Jesse finally picking me up, I had no clothes left, no nothing. So he ended up picking me up. It's kind of funny, in an orange jumpsuit with orange Crocs on, and didn't even cuff me up or anything. I was like, "You're not gonna cuff me up?" He's like, "Dude, if you're stupid enough to run looking like a tangerine like this right now," he's like, "more power to you," you know.
Have you two relived this conversation since then?
Yeah. I don't know if he recognized me when I first saw him here. I know who he was, though. Well, he was a very well-known, and he was kind of one of the bigwigs on the parole department, too, So now, being someone who just got out of prison, who has had no kind of drug treatment, and is deluding himself that he's all right, how long do you think it took for me to crumble and my willpower to just go to nothing? And let me give it a shot. I'll be like, one little hit. Yeah. So third day there.
Oh, I was going to say 3 weeks.
Third
day. Okay.
I was going to give you 24 hours.
Yeah. Probably if it had been offered to me sooner, I didn't notice anything until the third night there.
I can get away with this here. That's great. Yeah.
So not exactly the best plan, but I got a job, was doing good at work for a little while, but now introduced to meth again, trying to balance this serving job, and now I'm meeting people, I'm getting access to the drug, and it's getting bad. It's getting to where I'm shooting up, a gram every day, bringing it to work. I was bringing it to work with me, and now you're starting to drown quick because the drug makes you you overthink, you get very scatterbrained, and you're trying to do this as a server. It makes your body temperature hot, you're starting to sweat. Like, there's a lot of signs, So I don't know how well I was covering it up, but it was also getting back into the crime again, to the stealing again, right? I ended up getting, one of the ladies that I worked with offered to let me come stay with her. And she lived out in the valley, and I did. So after 6 weeks, once I saved up $1,500 and was offered this place to stay, and went and lived with her, and she has a younger son who also has or had some drinking problems and some drug problems, and we started hanging out, and we both found out that we both liked this particular drug, and next thing you know, he's driving me around doing what we did or what I did. Now he's my driver, and we're driving around doing the same stuff. So July 7th of 2021, I get arrested again in Belle Fourche, doing the same stuff. And then ended up going on the run for a little while, for like just under 3 months. There's a limit. When you're on parole, after 90 days, you become absconding, and then it becomes a crime. I thought after you miss one meeting, it's absconding. So after I missed one meeting, I just never showed up again.
It was like too late to go back. You're already okay.
Yeah, but I was seeing a different girl at the time, and she ended up calling the cops on me on my 86th day while still on the run. This is like back in or was it New Year's, right around New Year's of 2022. Because I went to court for this drug charge after I bonded out, was living with her, and things were starting to get hairy between her and I, and then she ended up calling the cops on me, and I found out that I wasn't absconding, and it ended up saving me, in a sense. My parole officer just he wasn't too happy, but I thought it was going to immediately violate me and get me sent back to prison. It didn't. And I ended up getting this charge resolved and had to go back for another 6 weeks to prison, a minor little stint. And then, let's see, where does that take me to? Sorry, I'm going over a lot of chronology here in a short period of time, giving you the whole story, really. And that takes us to April of 2022 is when I was released from prison for the last time and paroled to this now ex-girlfriend's house. And for, let's see, another 3 months until about July of 2022, I was doing good. And then we had a fight. We had one fight. We fought a lot, but we had one fight that made me go, screw it. So I ended up driving to Deadwood one night, won a whole bunch of money playing craps, came back to Rapid, and I was living with her, but she kicked me out. So now I'm kind of homeless, and I have that screw it mentality again. I went right to a house that I knew was bad news after being sober for now 5 months, because it was the 2 months that I was locked up, plus another 3 months on my own, all the while trying to get my construction business going, and doing well, actually, doing very well with that. But had one fight, went to Deadwood, won a bunch of money, came back, and went right to a house, knocked on the door. I want to get high. So, and one thing I've noticed is the more you relapse, the quicker the descent happens.
Interesting.
Yeah, like the first time I fell back in, there was a good, I don't know, it seemed like a year before it really got to where I couldn't control it. The second time, which I'm describing now, it was July it started, and by the end of September of 2022, I was this close to death. Like, I wrecked my Tahoe coming back from out of town, again, after being up for like a week. Wrecked my Tahoe at mile marker 71, coming into Box Elder, doing more of what I was describing, you know, and crashed my car at 105 miles an hour with no seatbelt on, and then stood up with a scratch on my elbow.
Wow.
And then the car was sideways, and I pushed the passenger door open and jumped out, and people were stopping, you know, to see if I was okay and call the ambulance. And another weird coincidence, the lady that stopped me was she just happened to be the prosecutor that prosecuted me in the Belfouche case a year ago.
Did she recognize you?
Yeah. I was like, you're the prosecutor. She's like, well, I'm a defense attorney now, and clearly you're not in shock. I'm going to call the ambulance. It's on its way. Like, and she just left. But it was just weird that it was her, of all people. Yeah.
It was like a sign.
Yeah. That was
Michael, listen.
That was the first sign from the universe. You know, I should not have survived that, you know.
Also a sign of how small the world is in this area, because you've run into people multiple times through your good and bad.
Yeah, no lie. But by then, like, I was back into the stealing again, and that was my main source of income. So right now I had no pending charges at this case, at this time, and was just dealing with a dysfunctional relationship that was kind of doomed from the start, but I didn't see it at the time. A relationship built on lies on my part, trying to convince this person that I was with that, you know, I'm a normal person, trying to disclose as much information as I could, saying, yeah, I used to do drugs, used to do this, but really used to is currently, you know, but I didn't want to admit that to myself.
Yeah,
you know?
Yep.
Yeah, so, and then you delude yourself that, like, all right, if the people around me think I'm okay, it must be okay. Like, all right, if I can put this face on, then that's the face I'm going to see when I look in the mirror. But then once that all crumbles, and it did, like at that point, you know, then her family started to find out that I was an IV drug user and I was still using. And then once you know that people are perceiving you that way and they look at you and they know what you're really doing, then you start to feel this big real quick, and you can't even look in the mirror, you know. So now we're at the end of September of 2022, and that's when I make a cry out for help, when I wrecked the Tahoe. So I was already in Sabisa from having gotten out of prison last time. You go through assessments when you get into Jameson before they put you in whatever prison you're going to. And I decided at that time to be honest about having used drugs and stuff, and they required me to go to Sabisa.
Sure.
First time I went to prison, I just lied. If you answer the questions the right way, it doesn't raise any red flags to them, and they don't make you do that stuff. It's not a very thorough, you know.
I mean, it works if you're authentic.
It works if you're honest, you know. But if you're not wanting help, or you don't think that you...
And you're suggesting drug addicts are not always honest.
Yeah, some of them.
Sometimes they fib about a thing or two.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah.
I think the reality is occasionally they're honest. You know? So now, yeah, September, going into October of 2022, after I wrecked my Tahoe, I'm staying at her house again. She takes me in because she just is feeling bad at this point. Like, you're pathetic. Like, I know what you're doing again. You need to get your stuff together. Like, you can't live here anymore. So now I'm homeless. So I go up to the Addiction Recovery Center and I get an assessment. And at this point, I'm not trying to hide anything. Like, I know I have a problem. And I'm totally honest with Samantha, who did my assessment. Wonderful, wonderful person. I was like, I need to get into inpatient treatment. She's like, well, we'll see if you qualify. I was like, you give me 30 seconds to tell my story, you're going to be on the phone. All right, when's the last time you used? 30 seconds ago before I came here. Shut up. And as soon as I'm done with this, I'm going to go use again, you know? Okay, we need to get you some help immediately, you know? So I left the assessment. She's like, hang tight. We'll get back to you as soon as we can. We're going to find out which one of these facilities has a bed for you. You know, I initially wanted to not go to treatment here. I wanted to be out of town where I didn't know anybody, figuring it would up my chances and lower my temptation to do something stupid and run, you know?
Yeah.
She ended up calling me back. She called me back a few days later and said, all right, we got a bed for you. It's going to be at the care campus here in Rapid City. That's okay. I was like, yeah, it's fine. I need something. But at this point, I'm shooting up every hour.
Oh my gosh.
Every hour.
How did you not kill yourself?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'll do like tiny bits because with that particular drug, if you do a lot, it starts to mess with your vision. It gets to where like you get paranoid beyond comprehension. And that's what a lot of people take it to. And like I tried to keep it to where like I was high and feeling good, but not letting that paranoia get to me to where I'm like hiding in someone's house looking out the windows, because that's what a lot of people end up doing. I think everyone's out to get them. It just turns you into a schizophrenic is what it's been linked to schizophrenia, to causing that. Yeah. So tells me she's got a bed just to hang tight for a few days, and I'll disclose this because this is the details with this. This was the felony charge that I just dealt with that's now done and over with. But on October 7th of 2022, right, so now about a week and a half after wrecking the car, after getting that phone call after the assessment saying to just hang tight, using one of my friend's cars, I'm a guitarist. I went up to and stole a $7,000 guitar wearing a COVID mask and just went into their back room that I knew existed because I had shopped there before. I actually committed a previous crime there that was already dealt with too, and picked up a $7,000 guitar and just walked out, just left, driving someone else's car, and then ended up having this person that I was seeing at the time hold on to it for me for the night, because at this point, her and I are still communicating. I'm not living with her anymore. I'm living out of my storage unit that's holding all my stolen stuff that I'm selling.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And had her pick it up and hold it for me, and then went to go meet her that night, October 7th, to take it and find somewhere to put it. I remember it being cold out that night, and I didn't want to keep it in my storage because I was afraid that the neck was going to warp.
Right.
With instruments like that, you got to be really careful of the temperature.
Oh, I'm very well aware. Yeah.
So had her hold on to it, where I could have just kept it in storage and done something else with it or whatever. But talk about another blessing in disguise that's about to happen. So go to her house. Yeah, these stories are wild now that I'm like recapping them. Go to her house. It's like 7 o'clock in the evening, and I ended up picking up some dinner for her that she had ordered. And then she told me that she needed some milk, so I offered to go to Walmart to get some milk. And came back and grabbed the guitar to put in the case and lost the keys to the car. Like, they ended up falling off the keychain and were in the yard somewhere.
Oh, wow.
But
weird.
Tuned up as I was, I couldn't piece that together. And I thought maybe they're in the car somewhere or in her house. And she ended up like getting real sick of me at that point. She knew I was high. She's like, listen, all right, it's like 8:30 at night. I'm going to bed. She has 2 little girls too. I'm going to bed. I'm thinking the keys are in the house. I can't leave this driveway with this thing in the car until I find the keys, So I searched the whole car. She's like, you're embarrassing. You look ridiculous. I had the flashlights on. It's dark out. And I looked like a tweaker, searching through the car, trying to find keys that were laying 20 feet to my left in the grass. And I ended up sleeping in the car because I couldn't go anywhere. It wasn't my car. I didn't want to leave it, but that's...
Abandon it.
Yeah. And then she woke up in the morning, saw me still sleeping in the car, disgusted with me from the night before, knows the story about this guitar, and then ends up calling.
Oh, she did know it was stolen.
She did.
Okay.
And by that point, she's like, I'm done with you. I woke up to police knocking at my door, RCPD knocking on the car door at 8 o'clock a.m.
Yeah.
Game over.
Yep.
So that's what saved my life. Like, oddly enough, her making that call and that being that disgusted with me, because had she not, and I'd gotten away that night, at that point I was already up to my neck in the drug again, right?
Yeah.
Like, even though I'd made the cry out for help, was still waiting on a bed, who knows what would have happened. Like, I probably would have come to treatment, but part of the reason why I stuck treatment out was because I knew it was my only shot at a saving grace to not go to prison again.
Yeah.
Because when I got arrested, I got hit with a drug charge because they found drugs on me, and a class 4 felony for grand theft, which is class 5 felony for the drugs, PCS, is a max of 5 years. A class 4 felony for theft is a max of 10 years. Me being a habitual offender, they upgraded both of those 2 times, which brings the class 5 to a class 3, which is a max of 15 years, and the class 4 to a class 2, which is a max of 25 years. So that's 40 years plus the suspended time because I'm on parole. I had like 6 years. You add that all up, that's 46 years that they could have hit me with for that. So now I'm scared shitless and scared straight, and what do I need to do to not go back to prison again, you know?
Yeah.
Got to stay in this treatment program and show everybody that
I'm serious.
I can turn this around, you know?
Yeah.
And that's ultimately, I think, what kept me there, at least initially, you know? Because I got there, now I'm on an ankle monitor because of this containment plan that they put me on for these charges, you know? So I have an ankle monitor tracking me. So had I not gotten in trouble and gone to treatment, I wouldn't have, A, had this pending charge hanging over my head. So I may not have taken treatment too seriously. And I sure wouldn't have had the ankle monitor on, knowing where I was at any moment.
Yeah.
And then I'm contacting her every day. We're still talking. And I remember there being multiple times where I'm on the phone with her saying, screw this place. I'm just going to leave. I want to come see you, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I know I would have done it if I didn't have the screws put to me with these charges and stuff, you know?
Yeah. Yep.
But then after like a month of being there, getting through orientation and really starting to take it seriously, and like I've mentioned to you before, like the change in my mindset there, I decided to just get as much as I could out of it. I started reading all day, every day, self-help books, just really wanting to take advantage of what was being offered to me, you know?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then it started to show. Like that's when the changes really started to happen, was about a month into being at the care campus. Now we're talking end of October through middle of November. I think I got into treatment October 18th. I'm pretty good at remembering dates.
You are, yeah.
Yeah. October 18th. And then on orientation for a month. And it's set up really well there. You can't leave for the first month. So it got me through any kind of physical withdrawals, which didn't really last long. The physical part only lasted for a couple days while I was still sitting in jail. I sat in jail for 9 days on this charge and then got into treatment on the 18th. By then, it wasn't the physical craving, but I was still a newborn in the recovery process. Like I knew nothing about the tools I needed to like control the demons and understand myself and really tackle this thing head on, you know? So that month there was crucial without being able to leave. And then by that point, I was dead set on doing a 180 and showing everybody that I could do this. Because at this point, everyone in my life, whether they loved me or resented me, was pinning me, even my parents, you know, after so many failures, seeing me slip into drugs again, you know, wanting to think the best, but pinning me as someone who's just kind of destined to fall back into this over and over again, you know. I said, I'm not going to do that. And now I've learned over the past year and a half, there's a few things more rewarding than proving to those people that you can. I mean, one thing that is more rewarding is helping other people. But there's really nothing more rewarding than showing people who would bet everything that they own that you're doomed to be a hopeless junkie that's going to die in a gutter, that you're not, you know? And getting back on your own 2 feet, and, like, there's nothing really more empowering. So, like, that's still something that I live on every day now. Like, every day I'm feeling stronger and better, and, yeah, it's very inspiring to be able to go through it and then tell other people about this. But so, yeah, treatment went great, and then got referred here by Amanda Welchel and my 2 counselors, Tanya Lohr and Lori Sargent, wonderful people. But the whole crew over there was amazing, you know. But I did do everything I could to stand out, and it definitely showed, and it resonated. And I just went as, I don't know, something just struck in me. And it wasn't just fear of going back to prison, but something compelled me to just do a complete 180. And that has given me more momentum than ever. So now I'm at 495 days sober.
495.
Creeping on 500, you know, and no desire, that itch to be high or intoxicated or some kind of psychotropic substance. Like, I don't need that anymore. I mean, that's been gone for, you know, a year now. Like, I enjoy everything I do every day. Stone sober, and yeah, there's nothing more liberating than being free of that, you know? So
you escaped it.
That pretty much leads me to right now. So yeah, we're creeping on a year as of March 3rd, and it's been an absolute godsend. Everyone here, you know? So I'm glad you guys saw the potential and gave me a shot, because I know at the time when I was accepted here, I was still going through some stuff that made me look kind of shaky, you know. So I'm glad that it's all worked out and I could, you know, show everybody that.
So just to clarify, at the CARE campus, was that your first real stint at trying treatment?
Yeah, I've never once have I gone through treatment. And I want it to be...
That was the first and the last time, essentially.
Time. Yep.
That's pretty rare.
That's very rare and pretty impressive when you say you took it seriously. Yeah. Obviously, you did take it very seriously.
And that's part of the reason I think why I did take it seriously is because they tell you a lot of the stats, you know, and I wanted to, as someone has said to me, defy statistics, not define statistics. They tell you only one out of or 12% of people that get through there actually graduate the program. I think it's something like 4 or 5% of people, meth addicts, end up staying sober long term, and I want to stay in that 4 or 5%.
Yeah.
You know, but seeing so many people run, people that were also dealing with legal issues that had a chance to take care of it there, because that program carries a lot of weight if you do it successfully. You know, the state typically funds it. You know, they want to see you do well because they know now that incarceration alone does not help anybody with drug issues. It does nothing to, and if anything, it makes it worse. You know.
Yeah, I've heard that for sure.
It does not. It's not rehabilitative at all. I've learned that. So now it's finally pretty unanimously known that it's not rehabilitative. We've got to come up with other plans, and you know, programs like this are now in the works and working wonderfully for people who take advantage of it. You know.
Yeah.
But like I said, something clicked when I got there, and I said, you know, I'm going to give this 110%. Because this is my one and only shot, you know. And then convinced myself while I was there that if I go back to anything, if I take one sip of a beer, and it's funny, like they want me to do wine tasting even at Tally, so I know the wine, and I refuse to do it.
Good for you.
I was like, if you're gonna, they're not. I was like, if you're gonna fire me over something like this because I don't know what this Merlot tastes like, I'm not doing it, you know. Right? And they respect that, you know.
Yeah.
If I one drink, if I take one hit of a joint, one shot, that my life is over. You know, that's kind of my substitute for NA. I don't do the Narcotics Anonymous. I've found a lot of productive things now to fill this void. It's one thing they preach, you know, is when you go from being a drug addict, that's your life. And once you get rid of that, now you have a lot of downtime. Like, you know, because it's all you know. So you got to fill it with stuff that's productive and positive and, you know, helpful and beneficial and healthy for you. And that's where a lot of people have problems, I'm seeing too, and have seen. A lot of people couldn't find that little niche, and for some reason I was one to find it. I got heavily into reading, heavily into spirituality, heavily into helping other people and trying to share my story, you know, which is very rewarding. And like I said, I've always been a workout junkie, and now, like, oh my God, I am a workout junkie because now I don't have this to sidetrack me. I could focus on my primary addiction, you know, and
the healthy addiction.
Yeah, the one that's good for you that everyone should really have. You know, it's a good exercise regimen. I think it's vital. I don't know how people live without it. And focused strictly on that and other things that are like just beneficial for everybody, you know.
Yeah. So are your parents aware of your transformation?
Oh yeah. I talk to them every day now. For a while, I just disconnected because when things were bad, I was in the back of my mind, even though I was deluding myself and manipulating everyone around me into thinking that I wasn't who I really was. In my heart of hearts, I knew. When it came to talking to my family, when it got really bad, I just separated. I didn't call them anymore.
Because it would be like admitting.
But yeah, just,
like,
you know.
Shame, maybe?
Yeah, exactly. That's, exactly what it is. Capital letters, shame and guilt. You know, talking to them, trying to come up with stories and lies about how good I'm doing right now with my business that went up and did well for a few months and then plummeted, you know. So I just detached from them. But now I talk to them every day. I talk to my mother and father every day, and they know exactly how many days sober I am, and they're rooting for me, you know. So, and they always have. Like I said, it's always been a loving family. I can't even sit here and try to blame. Talking to like the crisis brain about the crisis brain. I don't even know if I could consider myself a lot of people turn to drugs as an escape. I initially just turned to it merely out of curiosity. I never had anything but a wonderful upbringing. Always had food on the table, a roof over my head, all the educational opportunities in the world. You know, like sitting on a winning poker hand and just kept folding it. You know, not any. You know, all the bad that I've had has been bad choices.
Yeah.
I've had nothing but great luck and then bad choices, and eventually bad choices are going to trump luck every time, you know.
Yeah. I would say so. Well, I think I can speak for lots of people on this campus for saying we are just so happy you're here. You really, I've told him this before, but a wonderful ambassador for the OneHeart campus and program. And so thank you. And thanks for coming in today. Let's take a quick break and we'll come back and wrap things up here on the Escape Pod.
Yeah, sure.
Need an early morning boost or midday pick-me-up? Check out the Homebrew Coffee Shop, a coffee shop with a cause in the heart of the OneHeart campus. Homebrew is home to delicious coffee, sweet treats, breakfast, and lunch items, a great place to meet friends or host small group meetings. Homebrew, located at 201 Kansas City Street in Rapid City. Open Monday through Friday from 6:30 a.m. to 3 p.m. Homebrew, where you'll find hope for a home in every cup. We're back on the Escape Pod. I'm Julie here with Charity, and our guest today, Michael, who is a guest at the OneHeart campus and has shared the good, the bad, and the ugly of his life and his journey. But for the past almost 500 days has been truly living the healthy life that he seeks to live and escaped a lot of bad things in the process. So the most recent, you had lots of trials and tribulations literally in the courtroom. The latest one, though, ended up being a really good thing. Can you just recap that real quick before we wrap things up for this episode?
Yeah, of course. So talking about the universe sending you messages, when I first got here to OneHeart, I went to a gym right down the road here at Maple and signed up. And a couple weeks into going there, I noticed that the judge for my pending case happened to go there too at the exact same time of day every morning. And now I'm going to court every month, going back to October of 2022. So I start seeing her there in the morning, and I can't talk to her, obviously, but she sees me doing something good, productive, you know, and really trying to work on myself. And I had sentencing, when was it? December 18th, a week before Christmas. And by then, I had been seeing her there for 9 months, and the state wanted me gone for 10 years. Mm-hmm. They wanted me gone for 10 years, and she ended up suspending the entire sentence when she could have very easily sent me away for a decade. And then afterwards, I went and thanked her. I saw her in the gym again, and at this point, she's able to talk to me.
Right.
If she's your case judge, like, you can't talk to her. I made that mistake. I tried saying hi to her while she was my case. They pulled me and said, no, you can't do that. Conflict of interest. But afterwards, she was able to open up to me and speak to me on a normal level. And I thanked her so much. I was like, you gave me a new lease on life, you know. And she's like, well, you did all the hard work. She's like, listen, she's like, I don't know if you're Christian. She's like, but I believe I was put here for a reason. And I don't know what she meant by that, but I believe it's being in this gym at the same time every day. Because she told me, she's like, listen, I've seen not only a physical transformation in you over the past 9 months that I don't see often, but I've seen a transformation in you in the courtroom, and it's really helped change my perspective. And then on top of that, I also, when they give you a chance to speak, I owned everything. I'm not trying to hide anything anymore. And she later told me that, you know, that carried a lot of weight too, because a lot of people don't. A lot of people that are standing there, they give excuses still. They're not ready to admit their wrongs, what they've done. And she said, I try to see the good in people. She said, but some people, I just can't do it. And she said, with you, I saw it, you know. Yeah. And I thanked her, and she actually said, you're one heck of a man. This is what my judge said to me. Yeah. So that was awesome. My parents ended up writing her a thank you letter, and I thank her every time I see her now, you know, because I could very easily be in a totally different atmosphere right now. So that's kind of another lease on life. I've learned the value and just what that means, whether it's synonymous with like an epiphany or a revelation. But like, I got a new lease on life when I survived the car accident. I got another new lease on life when, even though I was still in a state of mind where I wasn't really ready to hit the ground running, it changed me. And then another new lease on life when I was accepted into that program. And then all this time, a half a century of incarceration, prison time hanging over my head. So now once sentencing is done, now another new lease on life, having survived when I should be a vegetable or paraplegic or dead. And now I have the next 5 years to pursue my goals where I should be sitting, realistically, with my record, I should be sitting in prison for the next 5 years,
Mm-hmm.
So a new lease on life is really life-changing.
So what are you going to do with it?
Let's see.
What are your plans?
I mean, you guys are working wonders helping me achieve my goals. So my main goals they're primarily financial. Well, they're almost solely financial. Since moving here and getting promoted to a server, very well-paying job up at Tally Silver Spoon, another wonderful place. And I got to thank Benjamin Klinkle for giving me such wonderful opportunities there. Have been able to put aside, what do I have saved now? Just under $30,000
Nice.
since May to buy a new car. That was one of my goals. And I've kind of closed that account. I just need to do some car shopping now. And now my next goal is to save up for a down payment on a house. And in the meantime, get my business going again. Once I get a good work truck, I would like to get the interior, exterior painting, handyman business going again, which was working wonderfully until I crashed into the ground 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So I got a small taste of just how easy it is to be successful doing that if you do the right thing, I had some great customers, was establishing great rapport with these people, was always showing up, and then made bad choices, and that disintegrated. But it gave me enough confidence to know that I could do it again very easily with a little marketing and advertising. That's all it took. And then word of mouth spread because my work was good and I was reliable, That's all it really took. And the market is great for that kind of work. And obviously almost everyone, has a house or a residence that's going to need work done. So there's always work to be done. And that's why my father brought me in and taught me a lot of what he knows, because he said it's a skill that you can always use for the rest of your life. It's a wonderful thing to have, to be your own boss. He always basically preached to find something I enjoy doing and figuring out a way to make money doing it, and simultaneously, if you can, being your own boss. There's nothing like being your own boss, So while working at Tally's now, saving up money for the vehicle and a down payment for a house, I want to start getting the business going again. And those are like my at least another year to get that going. I would like to have a nice substantial down payment on a house. And I know the market right now is terrible for buying a house with the interest rates.
Yeah, you might want to wait it out a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, as long as you're willing to let me, stay here, I'm going to keep smashing those goals and just keep putting money away. And I want to make sure that when I do leave, I have myself set up to where I can really truly be independent, and be a homeowner. I never imagined even being a homeowner, the life I was living my whole life.
Once you leave, you're only coming back to say hello.
Yeah, exactly.
And to serve as our...
We hope you do.
Yeah.
We hope you do.
Well, when I leave, I'm getting a tattoo of the emblem right here.
Oh, yeah?
I want to do it now, but I don't think that's so. Not yet. We'll wait until I've graduated.
Till it's officially official.
Yeah.
Well, I will sanction that when you graduate.
Awesome.
That's fantastic.
I'm serious, dead serious.
I can see it on your face.
Yeah.
I believe you.
In fact, I already have it, but I talked to some people, and the consensus was to hold out for a little while until I'm just someone who comes and says hi, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect.
So.
Well, we're really proud of you.
But yeah, tremendous gratitude and thanks to you guys, because without it and without this place and what you guys have done and established, I don't know if I would have been able to do it on my own. I don't think I was ready. I only had one other option for a living environment, and it's on the polar opposite side of town. Granted, it's with somebody that I could really trust and is not part of that lifestyle at all. Just the location alone would have been very inconvenient for me to get to where I work and have. Basically, I was living in the courthouse essentially every 3 weeks this whole time, so having to travel and do all this with no car, it wouldn't have worked out too well, you know. And like it's ideal location. You guys couldn't have found a better spot.
We fought for it. Believe you me.
Oh, I've heard. Yeah, it was originally supposed to be by like the DMV or something, right?
No, but there were some community members that thought the people I'm serving need to be on the outskirts of town, and I just said, "Oh no.
Well, I'm glad
that's not what we're gonna do."
If I could say this politely, I'm glad you shoved that in their face and showed them that it can be done.
I just went around them.
You went around them.
Yeah, you're gonna be a barrier. I'm just gonna go around you.
Good.
I want to make sure we give a shout out to your care coordinator, who's your case manager here at OneHeart, who's Ashley. So Ashley's been amazing, and she is super proud of you too. So I can say that in full confidence.
Everyone here has been amazing. I mean, everyone at the desk has become like family now because I'm always out in the promenade area there talking with them when I'm not working or when I'm
I've seen you. I mean, you're just kind of like a fixture at this point.
Yeah.
And the way that you welcome the new guests on campus and take them under your wing, particularly the single men, I think it's just been really, it's been noticed and it's been really valued and appreciated. And
I'm glad you guys see it. There's actually someone that just came in, I think, today. Obviously, won't say this person's name, but this person I noticed in treatment when I went to speak for the family education class. And this person stood out to me because I saw that they were having some issues emotionally. And I've been rooting for this person ever since I went over there 4 months ago, and I just saw them this morning here, and like I'm really glad that you made it over here. You know, like I haven't had a chance to speak with them yet, but I hope to, and I just kind of want to hopefully motivate them in the way that I'm motivated to just really take advantage of what's offered here. Because I mean, like you said, it's like winning the lottery. Like I've never forgotten that. It's like winning the lottery, and it really is one of a kind. So for people who are listening, like this model, this plan needs to be adopted and studied and spread elsewhere, because if it could be done here, it could be done throughout the entire country, and there are more cities and states, all of them actually, that need a place like this. So,
thank you.
Much respect and much love. Yeah.
You're quickly becoming one of our favorite escape artists ever.
Good job. You did a great job
Escaping from a lot in your life, and we appreciate your honesty, and again, appreciate you being not just in the Escape Pod today with us, but on our campus all the time. So on that note, Michael, we always end the, we kind of start with what you're escaping from, but there's plenty of places we would actually like to escape to, and I always remind people it can be a mindset. It can be something very simple, like a good book or something like that. So I said last time I was escaping to the 3-day weekend, we don't usually record twice in 1 week, but we did this week to accommodate our guests. So I'm still looking forward to that 3-day weekend. What about you, Charity?
Well, it's not super fun, but I'm looking forward to getting all these flippin' Microsoft issues resolved so I can actually work.
Escape to the land of no technical problems.
Yeah, I mean, it really does at this point, like, completely hamstring you.
Yeah.
I mean, Lord.
We forget sometimes how much we need things like email and a functioning computer till it doesn't, and then we know exactly how important they are. Yeah. Michael, anywhere you would like to escape to? It can be an exotic place. It can be any sort of thing you'd like.
Yeah.
I don't know. This might sound corny, but like I don't want any changes to occur. My life is so great right now that I'm for the first time in my life can honestly say I'm content and would more than welcome no change at all for, I don't know, indefinitely.
That's really powerful.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I've never been able to say that, and mean it. But yeah, like if things stay exactly the way they are for the next few years until I am, what I described, I'm a successful businessman, I have my own house and stuff like that, that I will be the most grateful person on the planet, I already am. That's why I don't want anything to change.
Well, your attitude of gratitude has already been really prevalently displayed.
Awesome.
Prominently displayed. That's the word I was trying to find. Yeah.
Makes me feel good. I try to. I try to uphold as much integrity as one can and try to be a good example, So.
Well, awesome. We're proud of you.
Thank you.
Thank you all for tuning in. We could not do this without our listeners, of course. If you like what you heard, please share it with a friend who you think might enjoy it. We're just a 3-person team here. So Charity and I and our buddy Cara Beth make this all happen, the podcast we're speaking of. But we would like to build a community of escape artists. So rate, review, and subscribe wherever you listen to your podcasts. It really helps our efforts to gain more exposure. Check out our website at escapepod.live. Follow us on our socials. Reach out at justbecause@escapepod.live. Or share your own story of escape with us to possibly be used in a future episode. For that, use the email escapeartist@escapepod.live. We are closing the hatch on this episode of the Escape Pod. Remember, trauma may be inevitable, but like you heard from Michael, how you grapple with it is optional.
So stay resilient
and keep laughing.